Hi kiddos, we're going to do something a little different today. I'm going to walk you through pages 155 through 159 in the science textbook. We are talking about the incredible pump, the heart, and the cardiovascular system, which we also call the circulatory system. So we're going to walk through that real quick today. I'm going to review it with you, and so hopefully that'll make things a little bit easier since we're staying home this week. So like I said, cardiovascular, also known as the circulatory system, and I am starting on pages 154 and 155. And there are three parts and three functions to the cardiovascular system. The three parts are the heart, which is a really, really majorly strong muscle, the blood, and also this kind of network of tubes or vessels, and we divide them into arteries and veins. And the arteries, I want you to think of an A for arteries. Arteries take the blood away from the heart. It is the blood that has good oxygen and nutrients in it that the cells and the organs need. And it's represented by red a lot of times on pictures and so forth. And then we have the veins, and the veins do the opposite. The veins bring the oxygen poor, filled with waste blood back to the heart to be cleaned up, to then be pumped out again by the arteries. As far as their functions are the functions of the cardiovascular system is one, to take oxygen and nutrients to the cells, which go to the organs and so forth. The other is to take the oxygen poor and the waste blood, that kind of yucky stuff, back to the heart to be cleaned. And then the third function of the cardiovascular system is to help fight disease. And that happens with the blood. All right, so I want to show you this picture, and I think that we actually put this in our sins. But I want you to understand that as you're looking at this, it's as if you're looking down like this. So what we call the right atrium, the right ventricle, it's on the side where your right arm is. The left atrium and the left ventricle are on the side where your left arm is, okay? So I just want to kind of walk you through what happens with this, okay? So if you look here, you're going to see that we have this inferior vena cava and the superior vena cava. These are two veins that are really big, and what their job is to bring the yucky blood that needs oxygen and has waste in it back to the heart. So it comes in from the bottom of your body and the top of your body, comes into the right atrium. The right atrium pumps it through to the right ventricle. There's a valve here, and that valve shuts kind of like a gate so that the blood cannot go back through. Once it goes in the right ventricle, then it goes up through these pulmonary arteries that you see here that are purple. Pulmonary means anything related to the lungs. So the lungs work with the heart and with the cardiovascular system to clean the blood. So it goes into the lungs, and if you take a deep breath, what you're doing is you're bringing in oxygen, and that oxygen is going to be put in the blood in your lungs. And when you go, you're breathing out the carbon dioxide and the waste. So that's how it's getting rid of it. So when it goes into the lungs, you breathe in, you breathe out. That's how you release the bad stuff out of the blood. And then you breathe in new oxygen. And once the new oxygen gets into the blood from the lungs, it then comes back into the heart through these pulmonary veins. Again, pulmonary means related to the lungs. It comes into the left atrium, is pumped down into the left ventricle, again, another valve, multiple valves throughout here. And then it goes into the aorta. And the aorta then branches off, and it leads to all the parts of the body with the good blood through arteries. Okay, so that is how that works, okay? Let's go ahead and let's look in our books on page, let's see here. I think it's 13, actually it's in your workbook. Let's look on 13.3a, okay? And basically what we're doing here is what we just talked about. On the blanks, label the structures of the heart with the correct terms and color the blood vessels that contain oxygen-rich blood red. Color the blood vessels that contain oxygen-poor blood blue. So I realize this has the answers, but I want to walk you through it and you can fill it out in your workbook. So we talked about how the right side, okay, the right side of the body of the heart is where the bad blood comes, okay? That's where the blood that needs some new oxygen, that has the waste in it, comes. And it is represented as blue, okay? That's why I put this, oxygen poor blue. So it comes from the body, goes into the right atrium, then it goes into the right ventricle. And then I talked about how it then goes into the lungs, it gets cleaned up, the bad stuff gets taken out, comes back in, and it comes in through the left atrium, and then the left ventricle, and then it goes to the body through the aorta. So this is the red because this is the oxygen rich. These questions down here, it says which heart structure opens and closes to keep blood flowing in one direction? Those are called valves. The blood that enters the right atrium, what type of blood is it? Oxygen poor or oxygen rich? It's the oxygen poor. That's why we make it blue. What type of blood enters the left atrium? Well, we know it's come from the lungs and it's coming back into the atrium, so it's red, it's the oxygen rich. And when the muscle in the right atrium contracts, blood enters which chamber? Well, it goes from the right atrium down to the right ventricle. And when the left atrium contracts, it means it pulls in as it's pumping, then it enters the left ventricle. And which organ works with the heart to put oxygen into the blood? That's the lungs. That's the pulmonary part. And they have to work together. Okay, so now real quick, what we're going to do is I want to look on pages 158 and 159. And I want to talk about the actual blood itself and what the blood is made up of. So we think of blood as being liquid, but really about half of it is solid. Okay, the liquid part of the blood, and there are 4 parts to the blood. We have the liquid part, that's called the plasma. It's yellow, it's mostly water, and it has the nutrients in it that the blood needs, and that's delivered to the cells. Then we have solids. We have the red blood cells and the white blood cells. And the red, that's the ones that carry the oxygen to the cells. It's why our blood is red. And then you have the white, and they are the defenders. They are the ones that fight disease. And then the 4th part are the platelets, and they're solid, but they're like all like little parts of cells. And I like to call them the Spider-Man of the blood. And that's because they're sticky and they shoot out webs. So whenever there's an injury in the body and you're bleeding, it is the platelets that come to the rescue. They come, they kind of like create a web over the injury, and it helps the blood to clot, and it prevents you from bleeding to the point where you lose all this blood and you're like, wah. So we need the platelets. They are the superhero, and they provide a protein net that protects when the skin is cut and the blood is exposed. And it works, these platelets work along with calcium and vitamin K. And you need both of those. You get calcium from cheese and milk and orange juice, broccoli. You get vitamin K from spinach and lettuce and cauliflower. So you definitely want those to in your body to help you out with that. I think that is, I think that's it for this one. And then I'll catch you again on Wednesday.